Technology offers something that we humans are instinctively drawn to. The promise of a life with fewer mistakes, an ability to reduce errors through the use of tools and machines. Technology has long promised greater accuracy, greater safety, greater reliability, and greater predictability. And you know what? That's exactly what a growing global civilization like ours actually needs. We won't be remotely close to where we are today without technology that minimizes flaws. But as important as that is, I'm interested in the things that we lose in that process, the weakening of human experience when mistakes disappear. Because there are many imperfections that don't negatively impact life. In fact, they actually make us feel more alive. They make things better. And yet they get swept away in the rising tide of technological progress. The problem is that tech is used to optimize everything, not just the things we need to improve. I think that arises because when we see a machine creating something perfectly, we can't help but celebrate that precision. But weirdly, when a human creates something imperfectly, we're actually drawn to their lack of precision. We feel a connection with the variations, micro mistakes, and natural authenticity that we see. That difference has fascinated me for a long time, more so as we move headlong into a future dominated by tech. Look, it's obvious that not all flaws are good. Many cause suffering, and so we have a responsibility to use technology to eliminate them. But we also need to recognize that others are harmless and good. They inject warmth, familiarity, and connection into our everyday lives. So I think we have an equal responsibility not to use technology to eliminate those. So in this video, I want to explore why humans celebrate both perfection and imperfection simultaneously. Polar opposites that seem to be in conflict, but maybe aren't. Because I think there are some fascinating insights hidden in the gap between our obsession with perfection and our love of imperfection. Insights that can tell us an awful lot about who we are. Okay, intro over, let's dive in. Humans can't navigate reality with certainty. The best we can hope for is to move through it, making reasonable decisions based on the incomplete information we have to hand. So when you zoom out and examine things, every action we take is only ever based on our best guess. Changing careers, falling in love, crossing the road, drawing a line on a page. Different things, same process. That's because reality is far too complicated to hold completely inside our minds. There are just too many variables, too many unknowns, and too many consequences unfolding beyond our awareness. Machines, on the other hand, don't experience the uncertainty. They don't experience anything. Instead, they process instructions. While we humans engage in a constant struggle with uncertainty, machines are mathematically tuned to be as accurate as possible. Clearly, these are completely different ways of working, adaptable reactions of humans versus the predictable outcomes of technology. Let's bring this into something we can all picture easily. Every painting an artist makes contains thousands of tiny decisions, not because artists aim for uncertainty, but because tackling uncertainty is what humans do. Consequently, the resulting artwork isn't just an image. It's evidence that somebody navigated complexity, adjusting, reacting, and making decisions one step at a time. That's why original artworks matter. The brushstrokes or lines made using pens and pencils aren't simply marks. They form a physical record of somebody thinking, a visual artifact representing the process of human creativity. And the result is something impossibly rare, inherently meaningful, and distinctly human. We tend to say we value authenticity, and while that's true, I think it overcomplicates something that's actually really simple. Because what we actually value is evidence that another human being has done something. That connects us with other people, and it makes us feel less alone in our thoughts, our experiences, and in our lives. Importantly, this is something we don't see or feel in outcomes that originate from technology, be it a product from a factory or an image generated by AI. And things that feel authentic are always embedded with flaws, not sometimes, always. Things like a cracked singing voice or an awkward laugh. Handwriting that isn't perfectly straight or a brushstroke that wandered slightly further than the artist intended. None of these improve outcomes in a technical sense, but they improve connection in an experiential sense. They tell us somebody real was involved, somebody who struggled and doubted themselves, somebody who wasn't perfectly predictable. We see ourselves in the process and in the outcomes. It's like a mirror reflecting humanity back onto us and reminding us that the universe is inherently unpredictable. Across the span of history, many cultures have recognized this, not because they shared knowledge or ideas, but because they shared humanity. For example, in Japan, cracks in pottery are painted with gold through a process known as kintsugi. The flaw isn't hidden, it's celebrated. In America, Navajo weavers leave small pathways within a rug, a flawed streak that breaks the uniformity of the design. Similarly, it's believed that some Islamic artists introduce subtle imperfections as an act of humility, a signifier that perfection is divine, but humans are flawed and imperfect. And some Amish quilts include deliberate mistakes that can be seen to communicate similar beliefs. These are all different countries with different histories, different people with different religions, and yet all have reached a remarkably similar conclusion: that flaws have value. You see, we live in a world of amazingly diverse communities. That's what makes travel and learning about other cultures so fascinating and enriching. But there are many things that bind everyone, core programming in everyone's minds that bond us as a global civilization. Our acceptance and appreciation of flaws is one such thing. A shared understanding that makes us feel closer and more connected as a species. Despite our appreciation for the human touch, there's an interesting contradiction. While we celebrate imperfect people, we also demand perfect systems. And honestly, that's entirely sensible. Why would we want human imperfection to bleed into areas that demand precision? Nobody wants an authentic human aircraft failure. Similarly, I wouldn't choose an imperfect heart operation. I doubt you would either. And the world certainly doesn't need a nuclear power station that's occasionally creative. So technology's ability to do things with near perfect accuracy is a great thing in these types of situations. Machines have improved our lives precisely because they remove the possibility of harmful human mistakes. That should continue forever. But the problem is we're not very good at choosing how we use technology to improve life. We employ tech to remove harmful flaws and meaningful ones as well. Optimization is a blanket process that we apply to everything, and it has one focus. How can something become more efficient? We almost never ask, will removing this mistake also remove something that people appreciate? For example, the same technology that helps a surgeon perform more accurately could also potentially smooth every brushstroke an artist makes. And the same artificial intelligence that spots disease early may also produce writing that makes every paragraph sound the same. Technology can't decide where optimization should stop, and we don't pause to consider where it should stop either. What I'm wondering is that as more of our creative tools become capable of producing basically flawless results, will the value of human imperfection actually become more visible? Not because imperfect work is objectively better. From an optimization perspective, it isn't. But because flawed outcomes signal that a human was present. A human just like you and me. I don't think the future is a choice between humans and technology, but it will be a landscape in which we're forced to question what matters and what we value. We need to continue building safer hospitals and developing safer transport, but we should also protect the imperfections that never caused any harm in the first place. Flaws that actually give life spice and flavour. Handwriting on pages, hesitant answers, wonky ceramic bowls and rough sketches. Laughs that arrive at the wrong moment, awkward pauses and mispronounced words. Because these aren't system failures, they're biological fingerprints, marks of humanity that don't need to be ironed out. And I think that's why we instinctively recognise them and why over time we'll come to treasure them. They remind us that behind every meaningful piece of work stood somebody trying, somebody struggling with the difficulty of reality, not a machine following millions of instructions that lead to perfect results. Technology is a quest for perfection, a quest initiated by humans who know they're flawed. And as technology allows our systems to become increasingly perfect, we may learn to love our imperfections in ways we never have before. They'll become one of the clearest pieces of evidence that a human was involved in a process, a result of biology's inability to do things with 100% accuracy. And we'll be driven to these marks of humanity because we see ourselves in them. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future.